Hello. Hello. We're in volume 3 of chapter 2 of Sense and Sensibility, which I am reading out loud on this channel. Emily's Reading Corner. Thank you for joining me. I do also realize that I am not looking up as many words because I don't need to, which feels really good. I feel like I'm just getting the lingo a little bit. But there are some words that I don't know how to pronounce, but I feel like I know what they mean, oddly enough. I just don't know. The pronunciation is tough for me. So maybe I should still be looking up words. But any advice anybody has on making this more entertaining, just me reading, let me know. But we're going to continue on. We're marching along, we're plugging away. Sense and Sensibility. Beautiful, beautifully written. Loving Mrs. Jennings. Sad we probably won't get to see Mr. and Mrs. Palmer anymore because she had a baby. Not that we can't see them anymore, but sounds like Mrs. Ferrars and Fanny Dashwood are up in arms about Edward's prolonged engagement to Lucy Steele. And Eleanor just did break the news to poor Marianne, who is frankly embarrassed that she hasn't been able to be there for her sister. So that's all. Now we're all caught up in my brain. Chapter 2, volume 3. We're really on chapter 38, and it says that right up there in the corner, which is really nice. Okay. Mrs. Jennings was very warm in her praise of Edward's conduct, but only Eleanor and Marianne understood its true merit. They only knew how little he had had to tempt him to be disobedient, and how small was the consolation, beyond the consciousness of doing right, that could remain to him in the loss of friends and fortune. Eleanor gloried in his integrity, and Marianne forgave all his offences in compassion for his punishment. He's been punished greatly. He won't get any fortune from his mother, and all the estate that was supposed to go to him is now going to his younger brother, Robert. And his mom did say, if he ever gets a profession, I will do everything in my power to make him not succeed or press on in that. Yikes. And it was nice. I think they are admiring Edward because he didn't just say, all right, screw Lucy. I guess I'll just, he's not really in it for the money. He was like, yeah, I've been engaged to her for a year. And she said 4 years. Is that true? I've been engaged to her for a really long time and I took a break it off because you guys are mad about it. Maybe if I knew that you guys were going to be accepting of me, I wouldn't have to hide it. Anyway. But though confidence between them was, by this public discovery, restored to its proper state, it was not a subject on which either of them were fond of dwelling when alone. Eleanor avoided it upon principle, and as tending to fix still more upon her thoughts by the too warm, too positive assurances of Marianne, that belief of Edward's continued affection for herself which she rather wished to do away. And Marianne's courage soon failed her in trying to converse upon a topic which always left her more dissatisfied with herself than ever, by the comparison it necessarily produced between Eleanor's conduct and her own. She felt all the force of that comparison, but not as her sister had hoped to urge her to exertion now. She felt it with all the pain of continual self-reproach, regretted most bitterly that she had never exerted herself before, but it brought only the torture of penitence, without the hope of amendment. Every time I say the word penitence, I always think of Indiana Jones and the Quest for the Holy Grail. Is that the one where Sean Connery's in it? Is it the Holy Grail? Yeah, and he's like going through all the stages and he's like, penitence, penitence, penitence. Only the man kneels in penitence, and he doesn't get his head chopped off through the thing. Today's recommendation for movies to go watch are maybe just the first 3 Indiana Jones movies, because they're so fun. I cannot believe that they just made another Indiana Jones in 2023. Harrison Ford is How old do you think Harrison Ford is? I'm thinking 82, and he's done Star Wars recently and Indiana Jones. Sorry, I know it's a tangent. How old is Harrison freaking Ford? He is 82. He's gonna be 83 on July 13th. Penitence. But it brought only the torture of penitence. I love that. The torture of penitence. Weakened that she still fancied present exertion impossible, and therefore it only dispirited her more. Yeah, big catch-22 when you're like guilty, but you're feeling guilty that you're feeling guilty, or you feel bad and you're feeling bad that you're feeling bad, and then you feel even more bad because you're feeling bad, but somebody else is also feeling bad, but you can't help feeling bad. This life, you guys. Nothing new was heard by them for a day or two afterwards of affairs in Harley Street or Bartlett's Building, but though so much of the matter was known to them already that Mrs. Jennings might have had enough to do in spreading that knowledge farther without seeking after more, she had resolved from the first to pay a visit of comfort and inquiry to her cousins as soon as she could, and nothing but the hindrance of more visitors than usual had prevented her going to them within that time. The third day succeeding their knowledge of the particulars was so fine, so beautiful a Sunday as to draw many to Kensington Gardens, though it was only the second week in March. Let's look up what Kensington Garden is. Kensington Gardens. The Gardens of Kensington Palace in West London. The palace was converted into a royal palace for William III and Mary by Christopher Wren after they came to the throne in 1689. The gardens included a summer house designed by William Kent in 1735 and the Round Pond, created in 1728. In some letters that she wrote, it said, I had a pleasant walk in Kensington Gardens on Sunday with Henry, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Tilson. Everything was fresh and beautiful. Sweet. Sweet little letters from Jane Austen that we get to read. That's very sweet. Many to Kensington, although it was only March, right. Mrs. Jennings and Eleanor were of the number, but Marianne, who knew that the Willoughbys were again in town and had a constant dread of meeting them, chose rather to stay at home than venture into so public a place. She still doesn't trust herself. An intimate acquaintance of Mrs. Jennings joined them soon after they entered the gardens, and Eleanor was not sorry that by her continuing with them and engaging all Mrs. Jennings' conversations, she was herself left to quiet reflection. She saw nothing of the Willoughbys, nothing of Edward, and for some time nothing of anybody who could by any chance, whether grave or gay, be interesting to her. London's kind of boring, huh? But at last she found herself with some surprise accosted by Miss Steele, who, though looking rather shy, expressed great satisfaction in meeting them, and on receiving encouragement from the particular kindness of Mrs. Jennings. Left her own party for a short time to join theirs, Mrs. Jennings immediately whispered to Eleanor, Get it all out of her, my dear. She will tell you anything if you ask. You see, I cannot leave Mrs. Clark. It was lucky, however, for Mrs. Jennings' curiosity, and for Eleanor's too, that she would tell anything without being asked, for nothing would otherwise have been learnt. I am so glad to meet you, said Miss Steele, taking her familiarly by the arm, for I wanted to see you of all things in the world. And then lowering her voice, I suppose Mrs. Jennings has heard all about it. Is she angry? Not at all, I believe, with you. That is a good thing. And Lady Middleton, is she angry? I cannot suppose it possible that she should. I am monstrous glad of it. Good gracious, I have had such a time of it. I never saw Lucy in such a rage in my life. Miss Steele is Lucy's sister. Okay. Lucy's sister's name is Nancy. Okay. I never saw Lucy in such a rage in my life. She vowed at first she would never trim me up a new bonnet. I vow I will never trim you up a new bonnet. nor do anything else for me again so long as she lived. But now she is quite come to, and we are as good friends as ever. Look, she made me this bow to my hat, and put in the feather last night. There now, you are going to laugh at me, but why should not I wear pink ribbons? I do not care if it is the doctor's favourite colour. I'm sure for my part I should never have known he did like it better than any colour, if he had not happened to say so. My cousins have been so plaguing me, I declare sometimes I do not know which way to look before them. Nancy was the one who was having a crush on Dr. Davies, but I thought it was Lucy. Okay, I get it. She had wandered away to the subject on which Eleanor had nothing to say, and therefore soon judged it expedient to find her way back again to the first. Well, but Miss Dashwood, speaking triumphantly, people may say that they choose what they choose about Mr. Ferrars declaring he would not have Lucy, for it is no such a thing, I can tell you, and it's quite a shame for such ill-natured reports to be spread abroad. Whatever Lucy might think about it herself, it was no business of other people to set it down for certain. I never heard anything of the kind hinted at before, I assure you, said Eleanor. Oh, did not you? But it was said, I know very well, and by more than one. For Miss Godby told Miss Sparks that nobody in their senses could expect Mr. Ferrars to give up a woman like Miss Morton, with £30,000 in her fortune, for Lucy Steele that had nothing at all. And I had it from Miss Sparks myself. And besides that, my cousin Richard said to himself that when it came to the point, he was afraid Mr. Ferrars would be off, and when Edward did not come near us for 3 days, I could not tell what to think of myself, and I believe in my heart Lucy gave it all up for lost, for we came away from your brother's on Wednesday, and we saw nothing of him, not all Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and did not know what was become with him. Once Lucy thought to write him, but then her spirit rose against it. However, this morning he came, just as we came home from church, and then it all came out, how he had been sent on Wednesday to Harley Street, and been talked to by his mother, and then all of them, and how he had declared before them all that he loved nobody but Lucy, and nobody but Lucy would he have. And now he had been so worried by what passed, that as soon as he had went away from his mother's house, he had got upon his horse and rid into the country somewhere or other, and how he had stayed about at an inn all Thursday and Friday on purpose to get the better of it. And after thinking it all over and over again, he said, it seemed to him as if, now he had no fortune and nothing at all, it would be quite unkind to keep her on to the engagement, because it must be for her loss. For he had nothing but £2,000, and no hope of anything else, and if he was to go into orders, as he had some thoughts, he could get nothing but a curacy. And how was they to live upon that? A curacy sounds like currency. What's a curacy? The office position, or work of a curate. What's a curate? Birth, bill, office, place, position, post, curacy. He could not bear to think of her doing no better, and so he begged, if she had the least mind for it, to put an end to the matter directly and leave him to shift for himself. Oh, he's like breaking up with her because he's too poor and doesn't want her to be poor also with him. I heard him say all this as plain as he could possibly be, and it was entirely for her sake and upon her account that he said a word about being off, and not upon his own. I will take my oath he never dropped a syllable of being tired of her, or wishing to marry Miss Morton, or anything like that. But, to be sure, Lucy would not give ear to such kind of talking, so she told him directly, with a great deal about sweet and love, and all that. Ooh, la, one can't repeat such kind of things, She told him directly she had not the least mind in the world to be off, for she could live with him upon a trifle, and how little soever he might have, she should be very glad to have it all, or something of the kind. So then he was monstrous happy, and they talked on some time about what they should do, and they agreed he should take orders directly, and they must wait to be buried till he got a living. And just then I could not hear any more from my cousin called from below to tell me that Mrs. Richardson was come in her coach and would take one of us to Kensington Gardens. So I was forced to go into the room and interrupt them, to ask Lucy if she would like to go, but she did not care to leave Edward, so I just ran upstairs and put on a pair of silk stockings and came off with the Richardsons. I do not understand what you mean by interrupting them, said Eleanor. You were all in the same room together, were you not? No, indeed, not us. Ah, Miss Dashwood, do you think people make love when anybody else is by? Oh, for shame. To be sure, you must know better than that, laughing affectedly. No, they were shut up in the drawing-room together, and all I heard was only by listening at the door. How? Cried Eleanor. Have you been repeating to me what you only learnt yourself by listening at the door? I am sorry I did not know it before, for I certainly would not have suffered you to give me particulars of a conversation which you ought not to have known yourself. How could you behave so unfairly of your sister? Oh, Lord, there is nothing in that. I only stood at the door and heard what I could, and I am sure Lucy would have done just the same for me. By me, for a year or two back, when Martha Sharp and I had so many secrets together, she never made any bones of hiding in a closet or behind a chimney-board on purpose to hear what we said. Eleanor tried to talk of something else, but Miss Steele could not be kept beyond a couple of minutes from the uppermost in her mind. Edward talks of going to Oxford soon, said she, but now he's lodging at number Pall Mall. What an ill-natured woman his mother is, ain't she? And your brother and sister not very kind. However, I shan't say anything against them to you. And to be sure, they did send us home in their own chariot, which was more than I looked for. And for my part, I was all in a fright for fear your sister should ask us for the huswives. Huswives? What's a huswife? Pocket cases for needles, pins, thread, and scissors. Huswives. Did you get my huswives? Okay. Huswives. Huswifes. Fear for your sister should ask us for the huswives she had gave us a day or two before, but however nothing was said about them, and I took care to keep mine out of sight. Ed would have got some business at Oxford, he says. So he must go there for a time, and after that, as soon as he can light up a bishop, he would be ordained. He can light upon a bishop. I wonder what curacy he will get. Good gracious, I'd lay my life. I know what my cousins will say when they hear of it. They will tell me I should write to the doctor to get Edward the curacy for his new living. I know they will, but I am sure I would not do such a thing for all the world. No, I shall say directly, I wonder how you could think of such a thing. I write to the doctor, indeed. Well, said Eleanor, it is a comfort to be prepared against the worst. You've got your answer ready. Miss Steele. She's got her answer ready. That's funny. Miss Steele was going to reply on the same subject, but the approach of her own party made another more necessary. Oh, la, here come the Richardsons. I had a vast deal more to say to you, but I must not stay away from them not any longer. I assure you they are very genteel people. He makes a monstrous deal of money, and they keep their own coach. I have not time to speak to Mrs. Jennings about it myself, but pray tell her I am quite happy to hear she is not in anger against us, and Lady Middleton the same. And if anything should happen to take you or your sister away, and Mrs. Jennings should want company, I am sure we would be very glad to come and stay with her for as long as a time as she likes. I suppose Lady Middleton won't ask us any more this bout. Goodbye. I'm sorry Miss Marian was not here. Remember me kindly to her. Now, if you have not got your best spotted muslin on, I wonder you was not afraid of its being torn. La. Such was her parting concern, for after all this, she had time only to pay her farewell compliments to Mrs. Jennings before her company was claimed by Mrs. Richardson, and Eleanor was left in possession of knowledge which might feed her powers of reflection sometime, though she had learnt very little more than what had already foreseen and foreplanned in her own mind. Edward's marriage with Lucy was as firmly determined on, and the time of its taking place remained absolutely uncertain, as she had concluded it would be. Everything depended, exactly after her expectation, on his getting that preferment, of which, at present, there seemed not the smallest chance. As soon as they returned to the carriage, Mrs. Jennings was eager for information, but as Elinor wished to spread as little as possible intelligence that she had in the first place been so unfairly obtained, she confined herself to the brief repetition of such simple particulars as she felt assured that Lucy, for the sake of her own consequence, would choose to have known. The continuance of their engagement and the means that were to be taken for promoting its end was all her communication, and this produced from Mrs. Jennings the following natural remark. Can't wait. Wait for his having a living? Aye, we all know that will end. They will wait a 12-month, and finding no good comes of it, will set down upon a curacy of £50 a year with the interest of his £2,000, and what little that Mr. Steele and Mr. Pratt can give her. Then they will have a child every year, and Lord help them, how poor they will be. They're going to have a child every year. I must see what I can give them towards furnishing the house. 2 maids and 2 men indeed, as I talked of the other day. No, they must get a stout girl of all works. Betty's sister would never do for them now. The next morning brought Elinor a letter by the 2-penny post from Lucy herself. Oh, it was as follows. Bartlett's Buildings, March. I hope my dear Miss Dashwood will excuse the liberty I take of writing to her, but I know your friendship for me will make you pleased to hear such a good account of myself and my dear Edward, after all the troubles we have went through lately. Therefore will make no more apologies, but proceed to say that, thank God, though we have suffered dreadfully, we are both quite well now, and as happy as we must always be in one another's love. We have had great trials and great persecutions, but however, at the same time, gratefully acknowledged my many friends, yourself not the least among them, whose great kindness I shall always thankfully remember. As will Edward, too, who I have told of it, and I am sure you will be glad to hear, as likewise, dear Miss Jennings, I spent 2 happy hours with him yesterday afternoon. He would not hear of our parting, though earnestly did I, as I thought my duty required, urge him to it for prudence sake, and would have parted for ever on the spot, would he consent to it, but he said it should never be. He did not regard his mother's anger. Well, he could have my affections. Our prospects are not very bright, to be sure, but we must wait and hope for the best. He will be ordained shortly, and should it ever be in your power to recommend him to anybody that has a living to bestow, I am sure you will not forget us. And dear Mrs. Jennings, too, trust she will speak a good word for us to Sir John or Mr. Palmer, or any friends that may be able to assist us. Poor Anne was much to blame for what she did, but she did it for the best, so I say nothing. Hope Mrs. Jennings won't think it too much trouble to give us a call. She should come this way any morning. 'Twould be a great kindness, and my cousins would be proud to know her. My paper reminds me to conclude. Envelopes were not used in this period. Letters consisted of a single sheet of legal-size paper folded to make 4 pages, with the address on the center third of the 4th page, and letters folded top to bottom. The folded over sides were sealed with wax wafer. Hence, letter writers habitually confined themselves to a single page. Oh, I see. Right. I did know that. My paper reminds me to conclude, and begging to be most grateful and respectfully remembered to her and to Sir John and Lady Middleton and the dear children when you chance see them, and love to Miss Marianne. I am, etc., etc. I love finishing a letter like that, etc., etc. As soon as Elinor had finished it, she performed what she concluded to be its writer's real design by placing it in the hands of Mrs. Jennings, who read it out loud, with many comments of satisfaction and praise. Very well indeed. How prettily she writes. Aye, that was quite proper to let him be off if he would. That was just like Lucy, poor soul. I wish I could get him a living with all my heart. She calls me dear Mrs. Jennings, you see. She is a good-hearted girl as ever lived. Very well, upon my word. That sentence was very prettily turned. Yes, I will go and see her, sure enough. How attentive she is to think of everybody. Thank you, my dear, for showing it to me. It is as pretty a letter as ever I saw, and does Lucy head and heart great credit. Lucy head and heart. Fun. That was chapter 2 of Sense and Sensibility. Like, comment, share, subscribe. What are all the things people are supposed to say? If you want. Join me next time for chapter 3. This volume has 14 chapters. So we're on chapter 2. So we're just going to pluck along. Happy reading, everybody, and ta-ta.